Anybody else spot anything else in that second sketch? Maybe a few other things, but we'll get on. Okay, so the third thing was Lee Valley. Now, Lee Valley was pretty good. He started asking a lot of questions, didn't he? And questioning's kind of good. He was trying to work out what was going on. So what did we think about the Lee Valley one? Was it a good sale?
Yeah. It wasn't a bad sale, but I think that he was more focused on the project than the problem. So, like what he was being asked for was the tool, and that's kind of what he got excited about and focused on. So it wasn't really the problem that the customer had, which was the hole, and the hole for what. Like.
So he got fixated on what the customer had asked for. And here we get kind of lesson number 3. It doesn't matter whether you're working in a retail shop or whether you're selling $5 million trading systems to the biggest banks in the world. Never assume that the person knows what they're looking for. If somebody says to you, I want to buy one of these, you have to ask them, even your first question will be, so what are you going to get out of that? For what purpose precisely? Where will that fit into your organisation? And we'll talk about those sort of drill down questions tomorrow. But you should never take at face value what the person's asking for. So you're right, he was asking for a drill. But there was a lot more going on, both right and wrong. What about the questioning techniques? What did you think of the questions he asked?
Overkill.
Overkill in what way specifically?
Too many and non-important, because he was looking for a one-time use. He wasn't really caring about like pretty much any drill that would do the job. So might as well just.
Did anybody else notice the result of asking too many questions? What happens if somebody asks you 3 questions?
Like, I felt bothered by too many questions.
Yeah.
Just stop it.
But he was asking multiple questions.
Yeah.
He asked 3 questions. In each case, he was asking 2 or 3 questions. So if you ask a question, you ask the question, and you pause, and you wait for the answer. So, because you get the answers, when somebody asks you 3 questions, you tend to answer either the last one, or the first one, or the one that's easiest, whichever those happen to be. And that's no way of going about. What did he do with the results of the questions? What did he do with the answers?
Sort of like ask more questions on the previous answer.
Correct. And were the questions that he answered driven by the answers? Sorry, were the questions that he asked, were they driven by the answers? They weren't, because he was asking questions about more and more technical ways of drilling holes. And I'd already said that I'd only have drilled this one single hole. And he said, I'm not really interested. And so there we get to this kind of the classic second mistake, is you go in, you've worked with me tomorrow, you've got some fantastic questions that will help you to drill down to the real business drivers to somebody buying from you, because that's what it's all about. Money, time saved, etc. You go in there and you ask 2 or 3 questions, and the person answers the one that they fancy. Okay, one mistake, but you don't listen to what they say. And one of the things we're going to do in an exercise first thing tomorrow, it's an exercise in listening to the answer and making that drive your next question. I know it sounds absurd, but none of us learn this at school. None of us do this automatically. We tend to just say what comes out of our mouth. And if by tomorrow lunchtime you're consciously engaged with people, you're actually thinking about what they're saying, and you're thinking about what you're saying, then my job is done. Because you know a heck of a lot more about your stuff and your buyers than I do. So that's really what we're on about. Anything else happen in that third sketch? He bought a very expensive drill. And if I went back with a $38.50 drill to drill one hole, my wife would never let me go back to Lee Valley. And it happens. I've seen salespeople, I've seen business people influence somebody to buy something they didn't really need. I said, well, I've got a sale, but they'll never come back again. Whereas properly engaged with, as we saw in the 4th one, I'm going to come back again. So see how the level of lessons that can be drawn out here. This is stuff that we cover normally in 26 hours. So this is normally a 26-hour syllabus, and everything's in the book. Out of the goodness of their hearts, Catherine has bought each team 1 copy of the book, which I'll give out in a moment. So as we're going through, you'll think to yourself frustratedly, oh, what about so-and-so? Ask me the question, and I'll tell you where it is in the book. And it's actually quite a nice way of covering a lot more material in such a short time. And there's a really nice section in the book specifically about how you ask the questions and listen to them. Cool. So what happened in the 4th one? What happened in the 4th sketch?
The guy actually went to the core of what the problem was, and gave him something, a better solution than what the guy had thought of.
So what do we think of that? It's a good answer. Does anybody else think anything else? Was it perfect? I thought it was pretty good. I wrote it myself. But can anybody think back through what the structure was? There was a structure. Did you see what was happening? What was the first question he asked?
What do you need the...
We asked permission to ask the questions. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions before we start? So it doesn't matter whether it's in a retail situation like this, or whether you're with a Swiss nuclear engineering faculty, a facility that you want to go and sell something to. You've got to start off by getting permission from the other person to be nosy, to be interested. And again, I'm not trying to sell a book, but if you go to chapter 6 of the book, there's a whole bunch of techniques where you can actually influence people before you even see them. When you walk through the door, you want them to engage with you. They think, oh, this guy's really interesting. I want him to find out about my business. And even if you've not had a chance to prepare people like that, you've got to ask that permission. Because, do you mind if I ask you a few questions before we move on? Because I'm happy to sell you a half-inch drill, but there may be other ways in which we can solve the same problem. So for what purpose precisely are you wanting to buy the drill? So you've got to ask the question and then get the technique. So then he drilled down, which is meant to be a joke, he drilled down into the problem. What did we feel about problem development? Did we see him developing the problem? I wanted to get a cable through. It's a genuine thing I actually did. I did drill a hole in the floor of our bedroom to pull a cable through. Long time ago. So he got to the core of the problem. What did he then do? He asked some more questions, didn't he? Anybody remember what he said? One of those lovely classic questions which every good influencer should learn. Anybody remember it? Please don't disappoint me. Now, besides you, who else would benefit from being able to connect to the internet from bed? So, very important. So, besides you, who else would benefit from getting this report done before 5 o'clock in the afternoon? So, besides you, who else would benefit from being able to get their statistics online on their tablet? Because there's a very important reason for asking that question right up front. Anybody got an idea? It's the thing that we're all most scared of. What's people most scared of when they're selling stuff? What do you find hardest?
People will think it's a bad idea that you did it. Like if I buy something useless.
Well, if that's your biggest problem, then that's great, because that's actually quite easy to overcome. It's not usually that for most people. For most people, it's money. It's actually asking the price. You're sitting there waiting for somebody to say, how much is it? And then justifying the price. Do we all agree? Please nod your heads or go to sleep or whatever. Price is generally the hardest thing to tackle, particularly if you're in a competitive market or if you've got a very high value, high priced item. One of the best things you can do, and you'll learn a lot of information very early on, is literally in the very first meeting. If somebody's distributing your stuff, if somebody's remanufacturing your stuff, going to take your stuff and turn it into something else. So besides you and your department, besides you and your company, are there any other partners who work with you? Do you have any customers who work closely who would also benefit from this? Because you're building up a body of steam for the cost justification. And that's a really key. And he said, so besides you, who else would benefit? And of course, my kids would benefit, and my father would benefit, because etc. etc. And then there was that final line, which I think probably about 11:30, quarter to 12, you'll have the confidence to say tomorrow. And that's the purpose. I'll tell you a story. I haven't really told many. You know, always tell lots of stories. I haven't told many stories. I had this wonderful guy. He's been my boss twice. His name's Willie Ross. He taught me and the people who work with me a huge amount over the years. But I would be sitting there getting ready with some fantastic PowerPoint, big cost justifications and examples and white papers, and I was going to go on a sales call. And he came in, and I won't do the Glaswegian accent because he has a deep Glaswegian accent. He talks like this all the time. And I'll stop now. And he came in and he said, look, what are you doing, Trev? I said, I'm getting ready for a sales call. He said, there's only one reason for doing a sales call, which is to have a good discussion with them about their business and find out if you can help. That's it. When you go and see anybody, the purpose is to have a good discussion about their business and find out how you can help. So you've got to get onto their side of the table and find out about their business. We all walk through the door saying, you've got to buy my remote control, it's the best thing in the world. Or, how do you think you could use this remote control? That's not the purpose. The purpose is to find out about their business. And it's not intuitive. Some of you, I think, will automatically do it, but the majority of people don't find that easy to do. And that's what he did. He was genuinely interested. Now, some might say a bit nosy, and you do have to have permission to be nosy. Is everybody with me so far? Because we're covering an awful lot very, very quickly. Was there anything else that happened? Oh, sorry, I forgot to say to you. He got to the point where he said, well, that's great. That's exactly what we do. That's the key words that in that conversation, you're learning about what it's like running whatever it you do at TTBE when you're not looking after these people. And I'll discuss what you're, and you're saying, my biggest problem is getting printing done before in one of these sessions. I say, is there anything else that you have a problem with? Well, no, printing's the biggest problem in my life. So I've learned, I've got a good relationship with Catherine. I said, I can then say those wonderful words, which I think you'll get, which will be, you know, that's great, because that's exactly the service we offer. That's great, that's exactly what we do. That's great, I've got a product that does exactly that. And that's what you should be aiming to get to. Do you see the difference in the dynamic between that and traditional selling, which is where you tell people about how wonderful it is? You have not mentioned the product, the service, the idea at all. And you can't keep talking to them for 45 minutes. At some point they're going to say, aren't you going to sell me something? But you can do it fairly quickly, and because your aim in your head should be to get to that point, and you're going to tell me what you are going to be selling in a moment, where you can say, well, that's great, because that's exactly what we do. It's not saying that's exactly what I sell, it's what the thing that I sell does. Everybody with me? Cool. Well, there should be some stuff up on the screen now. So what I'm going to do is work around the table. We'll start here with this team. Just tell me quickly who you are. Is there a sheet of paper that was going around with people to put their names on? Can you make sure you've got your name, the title, the company, your email? Because I'll be sending you a whole bunch of other stuff, and it also helps me to identify who you are. So you guys have to stop. So think about what you've just seen. Tell me who you are, what the name of your company is, that takes like 8 seconds, and then tell me, pretty briefly, what you sell and what I would take away from buying it. Go.
Okay, so I'm Isaac Shannon. We're White River Innovation. My partner Jesse.
What's the name of the company?
White River Innovation.
White River Innovation. When you say the name of a company like that, always say it more slowly than you think, because it came out very quickly.
Okay.
White River Innovation.
Yeah, White River Innovation.
Nice name, yeah.
Okay, so what we do is we've got 2 products. One is a seal for underwater rotating shafts, like you would find in a boat. And our seals prevent leaks from oil from coming out and water from coming into whatever boat motor you need. And our second product is a linear actuator, which can be used to move valves on and off for little mini robots or different applications like that.
And I'll ask you each one question, because we could talk about this for hours. I could just do the thing in reverse. So, what would I take away from, let's say, using the shaft valve that I couldn't take away from any other product?
It doesn't leak.
But the one I have on my boat at the moment doesn't leak.
It leaks. The current standards for... I guarantee
I hate to say this, but you really shouldn't tell me I'm wrong. I've had my boat for 5 years and it doesn't leak.
A proper boat will leak about 2 droplets every 30 seconds with a good seal on it. Outboard motor. That's why you got to keep putting in the motor stem. There's a little oil thing.
Interesting. Okay, cool. We might work on the justification for that, but I like it. So,
my name is Andre.
Hi, Andre.
I'm with Kintelligence Systems.
Who?
Kintelligence.
Kintelligence. Again, another made-up name. Be a bit like an actor. When you act, people think, I hate acting strongly and hard. What about the pauses? That's how people remember. Kintelligence. Slow down and say it. Sorry,
I'm
go.
with Kintelligence Systems, and we make a desktop application that helps biomechanics researchers complete their work about 20 times faster than usual.
Can you give me one example of how that's done?
Typically, they use a combination of Excel and other software that's not tailored to biomechanics research. And our software package actually speeds up that process by giving them an optimized workflow.
Okay, so is most of what you do workflow, workware, what I would call it?
Yes, we also process large amounts of data at once.
And what makes yours different from all the other products?
We're able to do large amounts of data which other products are not able to do, and we're doing a lot quicker.
Cool, can you prove that?
Sure.
No, it's a genuine, and can you prove it yet? Because you will be asked to prove it.
Yes, we've had several test clients who can vouch for us. And
So you've got benchmarks that you could show me. We'll talk about that tomorrow, to do with tomorrow's
Sure.
stuff. Sir, are you with him?
Yeah, we are together.
Right, speak together. Which one of you's going to... Oh, you've got the blue
I'll
thing.
take
You've
this
got the
one.
blue thing, so...
The blue thing, oh, I haven't taken it off. My name's David Conrad.
Hi, David.
I'm the co-founder of Cellverum Research with Fabrice LeBoeuf and another gentleman who's not here. We're a startup biopharmaceutical company out of research coming from the University of Ottawa and the Ottawa Hospital Research Institute. And primarily we're working on a product that is an anti-cancer therapeutic that we're trying to license off to a large pharmaceutical company.
So does it exist today, the
Yeah.
actual therapy?
It's in preclinical phases.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's pretty serious stuff. So, this is my ignorance here, rather than to do with Startup Garage. I would have thought something like that was in a regular research hospital's remit, and you would just go ahead and do it. So, but you're trying to license it on your own now, are you?
Yep.
Doesn't it belong to the hospital?
It belongs to the university, yes.
Oh, sorry, it belongs
Slash
to
the hospital. Yeah.
Right,
They,
yeah,
they
sorry,
work
yeah.
together. We are the inventors. The patent belongs to the university.
Cool.
That's how it usually works.
And who are your potential buyers?
Large pharmaceutical companies such as Johnson & Johnson or Celgene. That
Big
kind of thing.
companies, yeah.
But you know, our goal is to get it to market, get it into the clinic, and probably the best way to do that is through a spin-off company that can work hard on it to get it to the